your goals for it. Those are all very important to me. The podcast industry is what I call an amateur industry, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons why I like it and I choose to be in it. Anybody who has a $45 microphone, a camera, can go live on Facebook, calls it a podcast, and that's great from a positional standpoint for the entire world. But from my standpoint, I have to be careful as a host that if I get a young kid who comes on and talks about how he wants to be a doctor, phenomenal. I can do that. But if I get a doctor who comes on and says he's invented a new non-invasive heart surgery, I have to do my research and find out, is he legitimate? Is this a fraud situation? Is there a Ponzi scheme or something going on behind it? I have to be very aware so that I don't end up endorsing something that may not. And you got superpowers. You got a couple of decades of wisdom at least. I know you're at least 20. You've got, a great sizzle reel. You're on point with your messaging. And we've got a business world where 96% of businesses fail within 10 years. 4% survive. The ones who are surviving, most of them they think they have to pretend to do well in order to get business. And man, they lack vision. They don't have clarity. They lack culture. They're all transactional. Very few are transformational, and they lack leadership because they're so busy chasing the next dollar. They're not developing their people. So I think we speak the same language. Do you mind?
Yes.
Your form talked about awards, which is fantastic, but I don't have any context in those awards either. So feel free to just enlighten me, and feel free to ask me any question you'd like as well.
Yeah, as far as, who am I? What is Sola? What is our vision? Our vision is to change people's lives for the better. Because we've seen over the years, I've been on this earth enough times to see all the pitfalls people have made. I've seen all the grand ideas. I've seen theology theories in terms of, okay, this is how we need to operate. And you just see all of the ups and downs over the years, and you go, what is wrong? What is needed? What's missing? I personally believe, and my business partner, John Granis, we both believe that it's the lack of investing in people. It's the lack of empowering people. Here's an example of the lack of empowerment. I don't know the last time, Jackson, you've been on a customer service call. You call in, you have a problem, and obviously all you want is your problem to be fixed and go away. Mm-hmm. But you get the person who can't make any decisions.
Yep.
Then you have to get transferred, and then you get lost in that whole transfer world. Then you get that person and they go, oh, I can't help you with that.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example, Bob. And this is something that most of you who are in the podcasting world can relate to. I love Go High Level. It is our system of choice. It does a lot of great things for us. And I called them this morning, jumped onto Zoom, and they have a new waiting room type operation. It seems like they're trying to make some upgrades, but the person right there that's assigning people to agents could not assign me, was incapable of assigning me without me going onto their website and filling out with an AI that's very slow why it is that I needed to talk to somebody. And I asked her, will you do me a favor while I do this? And can you submit a ticket about how this is interrupting my day and interrupts the flow of your clients? And she said, I don't have the ability to do that. And there was 4 other agents in there. I said, can any of you 4 agents do that? No, they're all assigned their responsibilities. And I don't mean to shame Go High Level as the poster child of this experience. My hope is that Go High Level's executives will hear this. They will step into action, realize that there's an opportunity here that will bless the lives of thousands upon thousands of their clients, and allow people like myself to speak much more positive things about the way that they go about disrupting the friction that exists, removing the friction, smoothing it out. It's not that hard to do. So Bob, well said. Very important that we all take notes on that.
Yeah. And when you also think about the lack of empowerment, this is another area that I think you see is the C-level, organizations being structured like this. So we've got the top, and it all goes downhill to the bottom.
Mhm.
And I think the most major piece is the top piece does not empower management, because what they're charged with is get our employees to do X, Y, and Z, which is all financially related, market strategies, everything. It's always bottom line, it's the dollar,
Yeah.
which I totally understand. But what I believe happens is when you become so focused on just the money, what do you lose sight of? Your greatest resource, which is
Yeah.
your people.
For people. Well, and a big part of that, Bob, too, to double down on the mass market. Most of the visionaries who listen in are newer, younger, getting into it, and we call it a top-down management. You and I both know that in order to implement it, you have to reverse it, right? And you have to support as the leaders. You got to support the whole system. We read top to bottom, left to right, so nobody designed that poorly. It's just a matter of reading. But on the flip side, with the small businesses, they're so desperate for cash growth that they think they have to build fractionally, and so the fractional term's gotten big. We have these fractional C-level executives out there, and from what I can see, and tell me if I'm wrong, but from accountability standpoint, nobody knows what the C means. Nobody. Nobody's using the actual C. They put somebody in place as a fractional so they can have a cheap investment. That fractional person's excited because they can have 4 or 5 clients and sustain themselves. But at the end of the day, they're not making chief level decisions. Everybody's bottlenecking with whoever the main person is, or the main couple people and their executive assistant in their office, but they're not establishing chief level behaviors. To your point, I can't wait.
Mhm.
We gotta dive in. I gotta dive in deep with you on this stuff. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Do you mind talking to me a little bit about the awards that you guys have won? Where'd you win them from? What's the
yeah,
quantification, qualification of those?
yeah. These are the Telly Awards. They're kind of like our Grammy, Emmy in our world.
Mm,
So the Telly Awards, they have a specific area for industrial training films. So our last one, and this will get into our philosophy, the last one that we just submitted is the right side of the line. It's all about harassment and discrimination and creating respect in the workplace. Now, we're not afraid to address topics that people don't want to talk about because they're afraid.
yeah.
Anti-Semitism, Islamic phobia, uh, Asian hate. It's been really interesting, and the response has been great.
Mind if I
So,
add one to that?
yeah,
I'll add one to it. We stand against VA relationships. We call it virtual abuse.
mm,
Virtual abuse is rampant right now. It's modern
yeah,
slavery, and we don't. We often most of the people say, "Well, my VA loves me." Why don't you let a third party verify that?
yeah, mm,
Rather than assuming that just because they told you they love you and just because you pay them more than whoever last paid them, there's a lot of little things that can be done to find out. And again, I'm not talking about policing it as
right.
much as, again, if we don't open our eyes as leaders to really take into consideration how much do our people love working with us? How much are we helping them be empowered? How much are we understanding what their life needs are, what their wants and desire, where they want to go from here? I see very few leaders having those conversations with their proclaimed virtual assistant, who's actually their proclaimed do it everywhere and everything on time, faster than I can, when you don't want to, because you're so terrified of losing your job. You're not going to say
Mhm.
no ever, but that entrepreneur is going to live the high life in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm going to circle back around to the question about
Feel
the
free to
Telly
add it to your
Awards and all
stuff.
that. No, this is this is cool because I was just in front of uh, basically a team that is responsible. This organization is in the healthcare industry. They have, are you ready for this?
Oh,
They have over 200,000 employees, close to 300. They're actually over 300 with the part-timers. So
whoa.
they're massive. And we
That's
got
huge.
into a conversation and we were telling them about the right side of the line and another program. But in the conversation, we got into management. Okay. Are your managers really in touch? And here's an example. Somebody, a female, we'll just use a female as an example, was sexually harassed and abused.
Hmm.
And the perpetrator was duly investigated, charged, everything. Now, problem's done. Now, as a manager, let's say, I've got a team of 10, 4 of them are females. What are those females potentially thinking? They
Uh,
just they didn't have any issues, but am I next?
right.
So,
What's
and I'm
being done
sitting
to
there,
support the person that
right?
that got affected?
I'm sitting there, I go into my meeting and I got my list and hey, well, let's go, boom, 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 boom. Let's get through this stuff. Never checking in and what
Mm.
are your needs? What are your concerns? And if we're more in tune with those types of things, you think about if I would
Yep.
ask the women to stay behind after the meeting, and I would bring up, I know you're aware of so and so. It was a horrible thing. What are your thoughts about that? Do you have any concerns? The trust level
Good
would
for you.
just
Oh, absolutely.
increase dramatically. And not only that, now am I in a position to redirect them on a performance? Absolutely, because they
Yeah.
trust me. They know that I care about them. And it's not a game we play. It's people when they're taught that they can be empathetic, we really are. As people,
Right.
we can be very empathetic when you
Mhm.
allow somebody to tell their story.
I
And
love it.
so I asked them, I said, are your managers that in tune with all the things that's going on, and especially in the healthcare? Patients, man, there's a lot of patients that get abused. There's
Mhm.
a lot of nurses that get
Right.
abused from doctors and other types of clinical physicians. It's crazy what goes on out there.
Right.
So, so we said, all right, what can we do to help you? And I said, here's what we do. This is why we do what we do. We create training films that have 3 things. They're realistic, they're relatable, and they're relevant. Because if you have those 3, you can actually engage the person to actually pay attention. They put themselves in that situation or they relate to, oh, I just saw this happen. And they have a greater understanding of the content and why it's so important for them to not just take it here, but to
Yeah.
place it in here. And we've
It's part
always,
of it. And that's why I'm excited. So I'm excited to dive a
yeah,
little deeper. So I'll take a look at the materials too. I'm very fortunate. I was part of the team at Video Power Marketing, was Jake Larson's right hand man. And at Video Power, we launched some of the most viral video ad campaigns of all time. And one of
really.
those, our video ad producer produced the number one YouTube ad of the decade with Kobe Bryant and Lionel Messi on Turkish Airlines. And so each one of these ads, those were 3 of many elements that were needed in order to really gain traction. If we just had those 3 elements, the content still would have fallen flat. The gamification's missing, the intrigue, what I call the intrigue, the attract, and the inspire. As well, those are 3 critical components for people who are at the unaware level, moving towards awareness, looking for safety, right, and healthy boundaries. So there's so many things, Vision Pros, that we'll want to take a look at with this. But I can tell you, just from the nature of Bob, how he shows up as a leader, to get to know some. This is our first time meeting, my friends. And the nature of this conversation, it has been extremely transformational. Very little transactional dialogue has taken place between the 2 of us. And then the examples that he's given tells you about how he's walked in this experience of talking to leaders, empowering individuals, working with tons of, it doesn't matter if it's 200,000 in the hospital, 20,000 or 2,000, you can see there's a level of depth here. So I do look forward to diving in deeper on those dynamics. One thing I'd like to add or circle back to is a quote that came to mind as you spoke, Bob. My favorite quote is, people don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. And once people know how much we care, they're going to care about implementing what it is that we know. They will go to bat for us beyond belief.
Yeah.
So there's the negative side. People won't care if we don't care. But the positive side, if we really care about people, we can move mountains very fast with great people by our side, and it can be a lot of fun. So Bob's a living example of that. Um, let's use some of this, Bob, as the first introduction segment. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of went into podcast and I was like, let's do this. It's like, I like Bob. We're going to make this happen. And I'd love to have you come back. I'd love to dive deeper into the program as well and see what you have there. And I'd love to figure out too, which of the markets that are listening to this do we really want to focus in on serving, because they're different. Just like mathematics, right? If I'm teaching basic math today, that's okay. But anybody who's in algebra is going to leave like within seconds. But if I'm teaching calculus, that's totally cool. But I need to make sure to be, tight into that. So we'll be coming back with Bob as soon as I can rein his schedule back in. I'll bring him back to Vision Pros Live. Bob, any final words of wisdom? This is the last chance you had to meet with me and talk to our people about what they can do to support their vision or move their vision forward. What would your advice be?
I would say seek to understand your people. Seek to find out what they need, what you can do to help them succeed, to help them have a balanced life, to give them the opportunities that every person deserves. So to have the mindset to go all the way down, as you were talking about the pyramid, go all the way down to the janitor that is kind of traditionally seen as the lowest person on the totem pole. Have the mindset that every person matters. And I want to know, what do you need? What are your concerns? What questions? What can I provide for you? I want you to come here and be thrilled, not just, I got a job. No, you're thrilled to be there and to feel, to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. It's in us. We want to be part of something. We always do. And if you give that understanding for people, that's what they will grab onto it. And people, I think, are amazing when they are given those opportunities.
Huge. Absolutely. Vision Pros, write that down.
Yeah. Side note, do you want John Granis, my business partner, to be on the call too?
Oh, I'd love to meet him. I'd absolutely love to have you guys. We can do group. We can do separate. Let's talk about that right after we wrap this up. Those of you listening in, if I was in a moment where this was one-on-one with Bob, my next line, in order to seek to understand, in order to listen to understand, would have been, Bob, tell me more about that. One of your secret tools that you guys can use as Vision Pros is making sure that you don't just listen for the sake of listening, but you listen to really understand, as Bob said, and it can dramatically transform your relationships. If you guys want to reach out to us and meet us, by all means, contact either one of us. I'm sure Bob loves to mentor just as much as I do. You can find us on social media platforms, and there's a little button in the top right corner of the screen that says "Be Our Guest." If you want to come on and share your vision, you don't have to be a world-class HR leadership director like Bob. You can be just starting your vision out. We'd be happy to have you on here and talk about what you're up to. We got 8 billion people to help in the world. Bob and I cannot do it alone. Let's all do it together. And I'll talk to you guys soon. See you on the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.